Dear children, welcome back to online classes. Today we are going to see chapter number 4 of history, that is tribals, decus and the vision of a golden age. So here tribals means a tribe is a human social group which mainly lived in forested region and survive mainly by hunting animals and by carrying out shifting cultivation. They have their own culture and tradition which are completely different from mainstream practices. In 1895, a man named Birsa was seen roaming the forests and villages of Chota Nagpur in Jharkhand. People said he had miraculous powers. He could cure all diseases and multiply grain. Birsa himself declared that God had appointed him to save his people from trouble, free them from the slavery of Dikus, that is, outsiders. Soon thousands began following Birsa, believing that he was Bhagwan, God, and had come to solve all their problems. So, children, we have seen that the man named Birsa, he lived in a Chota Nagpur in Jharkhand, a village. People said that he had some miraculous power. Miraculous means supernatural powers that could cure all diseases and multiply grains. And he also declared himself that God has appointed him to save his people from trouble and free them from the slavery of Dikus. Dikus outsiders, we'll see who are the outsiders in further of this chapter. Soon thousands began following Birsa and they started believing that he was God and had come to solve all their problems. Then Birsa was born in a family of Mundas, a tribal group that lived in Chota Nagpur. But his followers included other tribals of the region, Santals and Orayans. All of them, in different ways, were unhappy with the changes they were experiencing and the problems they were facing under British rule. Their familiar ways of life seemed to be disappearing. Their livelihoods were under threat and their religion appeared to be in danger. So Birsa was born in family of Mundas. It is a tribal group that lived in Chota Nagpur. And two more tribal groups here you can see, Santals and Orions. There are many tribal groups in different parts of the country. We will see further in this chapter. All of them are having some problems under the British rules. Their familiar ways of life seemed to be disappearing, their livelihood also was under threat, and their religions appeared to be in danger. What problems did Birsa set out to resolve? Who were the outsiders being referred to as Dikus, and how did they enslave the people of the region? What was happening to the tribal people under the British? How did their lives change? These are some of the questions you will read about in this chapter. You have read about tribal societies last year. Most tribes and customs and rituals that were very different from those laid down by Brahmins. These societies also did not have the sharp social division that were characteristic of caste societies. All those who belonged to the same tribe thought of themselves as sharing common ties of kinship. However, this did not mean that there were no social and economic difference within tribes. Now, how did tribal groups live? By the 19th century, tribal people in different parts of India were involved in variety of activities. Some were jhum cultivators, some were hunters and gatherers, some herded animals, and some took to settle cultivation. First, let us see Jhum cultivators. Some of them practice jhum cultivation, that is shifting cultivation. This was done on small pieces of land, mostly in forests. Firstly, the cultivator cut the tree tops to allow sunlight to reach the ground, and after that, they burned them and they spread the ash. After that, they broadcast the seeds, that is, scatter the seeds on the field instead of plowing the land and sowing the seeds. So they used the axe to cut trees and the hoe to scratch the soil in order to prepare it for cultivation. Once the crop was ready and harvested, they moved to another field. A field that had been cultivated once was left fallow for several years. Fallow years means a field left uncultivated for some years so that the soil recovers fertility. Shifting cultivators were found in the hilly and forested tracts of northeast and central India. The lives of the tribal people depended on free movement within forest and on being able to use the land and forest for growing their crops. That is the only way they could practice shifting cultivation. Now, some were hunters and gatherers. In many regions, tribal groups lived by hunting animals and gathering forest produce. They saw forest as essential for survival. So, they hunt small animals and gather the forest produce, like, for example, flowers, fruits, leaves, etc. They saw forest as essential for their survival. The Konds were such a community living in the forests of Orissa. They regularly went out on collective hunts and then divided the meat amongst themselves. They ate fruits and roots collected from the forest and cooked food with oil they extracted from the seeds of the sal and mawa. They used many forest shrubs and herbs for medicinal purposes and sold forest produce in the local markets. The local weavers and leather workers turned to Konds when they needed supplies of kusum and palas flower to color their clothes and leather. So, this is about the hunters and gatherers. Now, from where did these forest people get their supplies of rice and other grains? So they exchange the goods, getting what they needed in return for their valuable forest produce. And sometimes and other times they bought goods with the small amount of earnings they had. Them did odd jobs in the villages like carrying loads or building roads, while others labored in the fields of peasants and farmers. So, when supplies of forest produce shrank here means to become less. Tribal people had to increasingly wander around in search of work as laborers. But many of them, like Begas of central India, were reluctant to do work for others. Reluctant here means unwilling. They were unwilling to do any work for others. The Begas saw themselves as people of the forest who could not could only live on the produce of the forest. It was below the dignity of a Bega to become a laborer. They only live on the produce of the forest. Tribal groups often needed to buy and sell in order to be able to get the goods that were not produced within the locality. This led to their dependence on traders and moneylenders. Traders came around with things for sale and sold the goods at high prices to them. Moneylenders gave loans with which the tribals meet their cash needs, adding to what they earned. But the interest charged on these loans was usually very high. So, for the tribals, market and commerce often meant debt and poverty. They therefore came to see the moneylenders and traders as evil outsiders and the cause of their groups had to depend on traders and moneylenders for the goods that were not produced within the locality. So traders came around with things for sale and sold the goods at high prices, and moneylenders gave them loans also, which they charge very high interest. So for the tribals, market and commerce often mean debt and poverty. They see the moneylenders and traders as evil outsiders and the cause of their misery. Next is some herded animals. Many tribal groups lived by herding and rearing animals. They were pastoralists who moved with their herds of cattle or sheep according to the seasons. When the grass in one place was exhausted, they moved to another area. The One Gurjars of the Punjab hills and the Labadis of Andhra Pradesh were cattle herders. The Gadis of Kullu were shepherds, and the Bakarwals of Kashmir reared goats. The map which is showing the location of some tribal groups. So in India, so this you have to practice. And next topic is ours. Some took to settled cultivation. Even before the 19th century, many from within the tribal group had begun settling down and cultivating their field in one place year after year instead of moving from place to place. So some tribal group, they started doing the settling down at one place and cultivating their fields instead of going from one place to another. They began to use the plough and gradually got rights over the land they lived on. In many cases, like the Mundas of Chota Nagpur, the land belonged to the clan as a whole. All members of the clan were regarded as descendants. Descendants here means descended from particular ancestors of the original settlers who had first cleared the land. Therefore, all of them had rights on the land. Very often, some people within the clan acquired more power than others. Some became chiefs and others followers. Powerful men often rented out their land instead of cultivating it themselves. British officials saw settled tribal groups like the Gonds and Santhals as more civilized than hunters gatherers or shifting cultivators. Those who lived in the forest were considered to be wild and savage. They needed to be settled and civilized. So, in settled cultivation, some tribal groups started settling at one place and started cultivating their fields, and then gradually they got rights over the land they lived. And in many cases, like Mundas of Chota Nagpur, the land belonged to the clan as a whole. Clan means a group of people of common descendant family. So all members of the clan were regarded as descendants of the original settlers, and they were the first to clear the land. Therefore, all of them had rights on land. Some people within the clan acquired more power than others, and some became chiefs and others followers. So powerful men often rented out their land instead of cultivating it themselves. So British officials, they saw settled tribal groups like the Gonds and Santhals more civilized. then hunters, gatherers, or shifting cultivators. So, those who lived in the forest were considered as wild and savage. Now, how did colonial rule affect tribal lives? Let us see. What happened to the tribal chiefs during British rule? Before the arrival of British, in many areas the tribal chiefs were important people. They enjoyed a certain amount of economic power and had the right to administer and control their territories. In some places, they had their own police and decided on the local rules of land and forest management. But under British rule, the functions and powers of the tribal chief changed. They were allowed to keep their land titles over a cluster of villages and rent out lands. But they lost much of their administrative power and were forced to follow laws which are made by the British officials in India. They also had to pay tribute to the British and discipline the tribal groups on behalf of the British. They lost the authority, they lost the authority's power they had earlier enjoyed amongst their people and were unable to fulfill their traditional functions. So, under British rule, these were the problems of the tribal chiefs. So, in the next class, we will see what happened to the shifting cultivators. Thank you, children.